Okay, so welcome everyone to the fourth ever AA technology sharing session. The idea for these sessions came out of some conversations I had with some of you at the most recent National AA Technology Workshop. There was a common feeling that we needed more frequent opportunities to get together to share our experience than just once a year. So these monthly sessions are an attempt to meet that need. The sessions will always be the last Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific time. Today's session will have only one presentation by the Area 72 Sound and Zoom team. If you've been to the previous ones, we had three presenters in January, three presenters in February, and then last month we actually had 8 little tiny presentations. But this one is an attempt to give someone a chance to do a deep dive, which is my fellow trusted servants in Area 72, our team of people that put on our hybrid assemblies. So they're going to share their setup and the lessons they've learned doing large hybrid events. After the presentation, we'll have time for questions and sharing. So as you listen to the presentation, please write down any questions or comments that come to mind so you won't forget them. Anthony and Mary, if you want to change that up and take questions as you go, I'll leave that up to you. But in general, at these tech sharing sessions, we wait till the end for questions. We'll finish at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. These sharing sessions and the format are an experiment. So please provide your feedback at the end of this. I'll put a survey link in the chat. And if you'd like to help guide this experiment, because the goal is to have it become a long-term sustainable service project, let me copy and paste this real quick. All right, so, I learned this last time. This paragraph is too big to put in the Zoom chat all at once. So break this up. There's that first part. Okay, so if you want to help with this project, we have our second steering committee meeting Tuesday, June 4th, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, same Zoom information that we're currently using. And you can, we'll talk about the format and how to make these better. But whether you're able to attend that meeting or not, the most important thing we need support with is helping to host these. We need people to help us pick topics, arrange the speakers, and then read the format and facilitate the session itself. I've committed to doing the first 6 to get this thing off the ground, but I'm not willing to just do this indefinitely. So I need you guys to step up and take a session. And we've got people who've already volunteered for July and August. And like the August is kind of a combo between 2 areas that are doing it. And I think that's a perfect way to approach it is don't do it by yourself, do it with some other people. And so yeah, reach out to techsharingsessions@gmail.com if you're interested in sharing a session or helping in some other way. There may be a bunch of links or information put in the chat. You don't have to worry about collecting it all. It will be collected all in this Google document. So you want to just open up that Google Doc and that'll be emailed out tomorrow and put in the TIA forum as well. So lastly, before I turn it over to our presenters, is just the idea that these are these tech sharing sessions, we're a learning group. We're not necessarily experts. Anthony and Mary, our presenters, do both, I think, work in IT, but most of our presenters are just AA members who have gained some experience volunteering and now they're able to share it. So as you'll hear me say at the end, that means we're all eligible to do these presentations. You don't have to be an expert. And with that, I'm gonna introduce our presenters, which are my friends, because I actually work with them in service in Western Washington, Anthony and Mary. And yeah, Anthony's going to tell you his story for sure, but Area 72, like everyone, we went Zoom when the pandemic hit, and then there was a desire when we could open back to keep things available and accessible for people who couldn't come in person. So they've been doing hybrid quarterlies and assemblies since April 2022, I believe. And
July.
Uh, and I got a request to record this locally. I'll just ask you to wait for the recording to be made available tomorrow. It'll be widely available. But yeah, Anthony, I'll turn it over to you and to Mary as well, and I'll get your slides going in just a moment.
Yeah, no problem. My name's Anthony, and I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, so I suppose start from the beginning, eh? I signed up to be the parking lot attendant at our district was hosting the area quarterly in July of 2022, and that just happened to be the first time ever I think we were doing hybrid. It's either the first or second time, and so everything was just kind of coming together. Mary and Conrad, he's the guy that runs the sound. Mary was the one that kind of threw everything together with I think she got a lot of the information that she needed from the Tech 12 team, which she's worked with a lot. And so it was just kind of like, all right, here we go. And she came down to do a walkthrough at the facility down there. And she asked for help, and one of the guys suggested me, and then I went from parking lot attendant to helping with the hybrid setup that I had no idea what that was all about. And so we kind of just got tossed in. It was all just thrown together. And that was, yeah, a little over 2 years ago at this point, or right around 2 years ago. And so ever since then, it's pretty much just been kind of building it together piece by piece. We started off with kind of a general setup, and we didn't really know what we were doing. We were given all this equipment. We knew how to do the sound, obviously, because we'd had that before. But the Zoom portion of it was just kind of all new, all brand new. We got this really high tech board. We got this. Got started getting cameras. Then we had to kind of link it all together. We had all these different components that we had to put together, and then start to figure out how to pipe the sound in the room out to Zoom, and then pipe the sound from Zoom into the room. And then at the same time, having the cameras and controlling all of that. And it was just kind of that first meeting, that first quarterly was pretty, I guess, eye-opening for me. I had no idea what I was doing. I had just kind of got into IT stuff. And so that was the beginning of me learning how to also run audio equipment and video equipment and doing all of that. It went okay. I would say the best it could go. We were able to have the meeting. We were able to do everything, and everything went as smoothly as it could. And then that's where I met Mary. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Mary.
There we go. Hi, my name's Mary. I'm an alcoholic. Really glad to be here. I know some of your faces. So for us, really, like if we go all the way back to 2020, we all went Zoom. Like it was like, and our assembly was done on Zoom, and it was done on Zoom that first year with the help of the company that most of you know, which is Tech 12. And then the next year, we got to do it ourselves, right? And being in the tech world, there's that transition that happens when you make the decision to continue the Zoom components in the room as well. So it's that hybrid setup. And Anthony mentioned we already have the sound system. We had a great sound system. We have a QSB sound system. We have our own speakers. We have all of that. We have probably a good $14,000 to $16,000 or more worth of sound equipment, and that's just to stand up microphones and have sound in a room, right? Well, then you've got to figure out how to tie that all back through, and that's kind of what Anthony's talking about, which was that July quarterly, where we're in a church space that we learned a lot of things from. We learned a lot of things from that space. And one is to always make sure that you have another component other than the church's Wi-Fi. And there's just a lot of things that we've learned along the way that we're going to kind of talk about as we move through the slides. But I've been really lucky. I've got to be Area 72's webmaster, their web chair, their sound person, their Zoom coordinator, and now I get to just be one of the tech team members on the bench, right? So I'm grateful to be here, and I'm going to pass it back to Anthony.
All right. Yeah, so Mary's had the pleasure of being all kinds of different area level stuff. This was my first area level service. So everything I don't even know, it all came together. So for that first year that we were running the hybrid, it was kind of just Conrad, Mary, and I working together to kind of figure out A, what we were doing, B, what our roles were, and C, how all the equipment worked and worked together, and how to give the most seamless experience we could for both the people in the room and the people in the on Zoom. And so it was a little challenging. Like I said, we were given suggestions by Tech 12 as to what equipment to use and what equipment to purchase and what equipment to and how to use it, and kind of just what we needed to do. And so one of my first things, Conrad had the sound under control, so we didn't have to really worry about that. He had that all dialed in. It was Mary's and I's job to figure out like the ATEM. That is the piece of equipment that we use to bring everything together. That's what we use to bring the cameras and the sound from the room, like from the soundboard to a computer. And then from the computer out to Zoom. And so we use the ATEM. It's got this software. It's called Blackmagic software, Blackmagic Design. And we had to, I had never used anything like that. And so it was just a big learning curve, to say the least. And so we were finally able to get everything working pretty seamlessly. But yeah, so like this slide says, the sound needed to be clear. And that was kind of one of the first things that we were even trying to figure out. Having that sound coming in from a room, you have open mics, you have ambient noise, and then from the Zoom side, we could control the people being able to chat, being able to talk and do all that stuff. We could control it from that end. But then when their mic came live, it was like, whoa, okay, everybody's a little bit different. So we kind of had to, basically at first, Conrad was on call. He was on call, turning mics on and off. He was on call, adjusting the sound coming in from Zoom. So for him, that was a bit of an experience, just being able to control all of that situation and just be aware and be ready. One of the first things that we got after learning about the mics was we got a mic we could turn on and off for the podium, so that the podium had control of when the mic was live. And so that was kind of that was our kind of one of our first upgrades. We were able to get them so that they had control over their sound. And then so that took one thing off Conrad's plate. So now we just had to worry about the floor mics, and he could turn those on and off as he needed to. And then also the sound, the Zoom sound coming in, and he could kind of control that as well. He was getting pretty good at it, and so that was all fine and dandy. And then as I was going along, you can go to the next slide, Jacob. And then as I was kind of going along, I was starting to learn how to work all of this. And so on the far left there, you got the ATEM. That's the thing that we use to bring the sound and the video together. And then the middle picture is the PTZ control board, which we use to actually like zoom in and like point the cameras. And so I'm taking that PTZ board, control board, and before we get going, I set up my defaults. Like, so we have, for quarterly, we have 2 microphones on the floor. So we have one microphone off camera, and then we have the podium on camera. And then we also have a static shot, which I don't know if you can see that on the far right. So yeah, it looks pretty good. And so the left with the smiley face, that's the podium. And then the right is the front view. The top right is the front view from the stage, where we can zoom into one of the microphones. And then the bottom left is the wide shot, the static wide shot. And then the bottom right is kind of a conglomeration of all the different like backgrounds that I can pull up. There's a super source, which is like 2 different cameras and a background. And that's all done by the ATM. So the ATEM, the right hand picture is like my preview of what I'm going to push out. It's the so I know what the camera actually shows before I switch to it. And so I can also from there control all the, like, what's in each different box. And so it's very, I don't know, man. We probably use the ATEM about 10% of what it's actually capable of, but it's a really nice tool to have. It gives us a lot of control. It gives us a lot of ways to be able to like have all the cameras in different places. And then that PTZ control board is super nice because that handle on the right is just a zoom. I don't know if you guys know anything about PTZ cameras or anything, but that control board is pretty amazing. That helps us to get the shot we want. It helps me to switch between podium and wide shot, zoom in on the mics to wide shot, helps me. And then the ATEM lets me be able to switch to the wide shot from the back of the room, wide shot from the front of the room. It's just, it's quite, once I was able to actually kind of get my workflow down, it was super duper, I don't know, pretty easy. It's just, it was a matter of figuring it out. It's taken us, yeah, going on 2 years at this point to even get dialed into the point we were at. And so as we kind of developed our process, like I said, we got the front of the room, the podium, their microphone. The second device, the middle one, that's the PTZ control panel, control board, whatever you want to call it. Point, tilt, zoom, I think, is for the cameras. We have 2 of those, and they control, like, the cameras from sitting behind the computers. I can put the cameras up in, like, spots, one on the stage, one at the back of the room, and then usually one like side shot so that I can get a good view of the podium. And so that thing allows me to switch between each of the cameras and set up default shots or default spots and be able to zoom in straight away to like I push, zoom in 1 and zoom in 2. PTZ cameras, they're just, it's a style of camera. And so, yeah, anyway. And so that's the control board that actually uses, that controls those. And so, like I said, I can set up defaults for where the podium is. I can set up default where the microphone is. Plus, I can zoom in and adjust depending on height of the person at the microphone. The podium's pretty standard because our chair is pretty much the most of the person up there. And then for the wide shot, I can one of the nice things is I can control where the wide shot is so that I don't have the microphone that's off camera to protect, anonymity for people that don't want to be on there. I can actually set that up pretty nicely. And then, so those two things work in conjunction. The PTZ control board control board, and then the ATEM. And so that is the camera side of things. And then one of the other things that we kind of came across was the Zoom sound. Whenever they opened up their microphone and we allowed them to talk into the room, it would cross with the microphones that we had in the room. And then we would get a bunch of feedback, a bunch of reverb. And so that was one of the next steps that we had to tackle. At first, that's what we had Conrad doing. He would be in control of the microphones, and that was one of his main jobs, was to, when Zoom needed to talk, to mute all the microphones in the room so that when Zoom came on, we didn't get any reverb. And so when that was what he was doing, it was like just monitoring the microphones, monitoring Zoom, monitoring when the hands were up, getting ready to switch over between the two sounds. And that was also kind of the nice thing with the microphone up at the podium, for them to be able to control it and turn it on and off. That was a nice little addition that helped with Conrad's job. But then Conrad was still, the sound guy was still having to, control those microphones on the floor to turn them off so we didn't get that reverb. And so as the journey progressed, we were able to, I think it was last November, maybe it was longer ago than that, but we got this little thing. Conrad actually got it because he's pretty good with that soundboard. I'm not an expert on that thing. Without him, I mean, I don't know. It would be a little bit of a challenge to get that thing going, but that's okay. That's what we have him for. He found this little, I don't know, I guess it would be an adapter. Maybe, I don't know if it's a controller. It's like this audio filter. Maybe that's a good word for it. It filters out that.
Yep.
A filter. Okay.
It is
And
a filter.
so we were able to put that between the laptop that we push the sound to and the ATEM board, so that when the sound came out of Zoom, out of the laptop to the board, it worked magic, I guess would be the best way to say it. I don't know how it does it. And it takes that reverb out. And so now we're able to just seamlessly switch between the sound in the room and the sound from Zoom, and we don't have to close the mics on the floor anymore. And so now it's like Conrad can just sit back and kick it. It's pretty amazing. We've come very far over the last few years. And so one of the things, so we have one laptop. Can you go to the next slide, please, Jacob? So this is Mary's setup. If you want to talk about that a little bit, talk about Minicam and all the timers and stuff.
Yep, that would be great. Hi. So this is my setup. Those are 32-inch monitor. We have two 32-inch monitors. Like we bought those, we just got those. Super helpful because you've got a lot going on. And I just had a question pop up about, the audio equipment is about 16K, but that is the QSB board. So what we missed in the beginning, which was the first slide, had a shot of the QSB board, which is the soundboard. And with the soundboard, we also have to kind of fill in a little bit of on the far right, the picture of the far right, that is our QSB soundboard. And then you have all of the wireless microphone pieces that you see in that box with the little orange lights on, they're what connect our wireless microphones to the board. So anyways, this board also, we have a iPad that has all of those, the electronic where you can raise and lower sound. You can fix if you're having a reverb issue or you're having too much, not enough bass, like it's too tinny and you need to bring it down. Like that, it allows you to slide through all those different pages of menu really quickly on the iPad. But going back to my setup, which you also see, we have the 32-inch monitors because I have one setup that I'm running our timers. So we use a product called ManyCam. I highly suggest it. I love it. I love the purchased version of it. There's several different purchased versions. It will allow you to do so many things. But what it does allow us to do is to build these really cool timers that I can move through really quickly. And I set up like a 2-minute timer and a 4-minute timer, and they all have this pretty Washington background in that. And it also allows me, like if we have people that are talking too fast, I have a bright yellow screen that I put up that says slow down. We're translating, like we're trying to do interpretation, right? So it allows us to do a lot of stuff, but also on that right, you see, I'm seeing exactly what we're seeing in Zoom. And I have a headset attached to Zoom so that I can tell if we're losing sound, if sound isn't coming through. Like I'm able to hear what our Zoom users hear, right? So that's really important. That's probably one of the most important things that we figured out, was making sure that you know, that sound component, not only was it clear, but that clear coming from both sides. Like we needed to be able to regulate how loud it was in the room, as well as you know, how loud we were pushing it into Zoom. So, but I can answer all kinds of questions about what we use and how we do that. Really, the most important thing is have a backup plan when wherever you're at, Wi-Fi is not sufficient to run your Zoom meeting. We try always to have a landline connection, but there are times, there are places that we go that doesn't allow for that. And I, being in IT, bring along my 5G hotspots, and I will link them all together on the table. Everybody's got a hotspot that they're connected to, whether it's physically or otherwise, so that we're trying to keep ourselves running. And typically we have, depending upon if it's a quarterly, we've probably got 80 people online. If it's the assembly, we've probably got a couple hundred, 300, we've got, when we do an assembly, it's 900 people. So you 600 in person, and the rest of them, the balance of that will be online. So you're looking at 300 or more attendees. And so, that's really what it's like. And having, when you have larger events, like during during the assembly, I have people who are solely online to do nothing other than rename people, help people out. Like, I have a whole online contingency that are not on premise, that are in the cloud, that are part of that that IT group that help run this, and they have jobs just like we do on premise. So.
All right.
Anthony?
So yeah, that's everything Mary's doing. She's got her own thing going on with the Zoom room. I've got my own thing going on with the cameras, and then Conrad doing the sound. And so one of the things that originally we were just kind of bouncing between like there's software on the laptop that you can use for the ATEM that we were initially using to choose what camera to push out. And then we were also if you want to go to the slide that shows the ATEM, I think it's the slide before. Yeah, so the ATEM on the left, if you look at the red and green button on the bottom, there's 1 through 8. You can have up to 8 cameras. We don't have that many. The max, we have 3. But so I was just using that board, and I was clicking between cameras, and I was using the Zoom feed to see what I was pushing out. But then last year, we had a huge breakthrough. Conrad was watching some videos on the ATEM Extreme and how to use it, and how, because that thing's used for like live streaming, like podcasts and radio shows and things like that, where they push all of that out to stream it to the internet. And so he found out that it was a lot more capable of what we were using it. And so one of the things that it can do is it has these outputs, not just pushing because all the sound and all the cameras are inputs, but it has 2 outputs. And so one of the outputs you can push to that screen on the right. So we hooked it up to actually be able to see all the cameras and see all the backgrounds and see all of that. So that was like a huge step for us. That changed the whole game for the video side, for my side of things. That allowed us to have a lot more awareness of what was going on. It allowed us to just have a better visual of everything that was coming up, have a better visual of what the cameras were looking at. Because I mean, that little tiny screen on the controller board in the middle was fine, it worked, but it didn't give you like a collection of everything that you could see with all the different camera views and points of view and stuff. So that was kind of a big game changer for us as well. And like I said, this has been kind of a just learn as you go, trial and error. We've gone from, hey, we're doing hybrid, to where we are today. Like, we got another one coming up here in July, and we've gotten the setup down to about 1.5 to 2 hours, and we've gotten the breakdown to about an hour. It doesn't really matter what room we're put in. I heard you guys talk before the meeting about how you guys, it would be kind of sweet if we had the ability to narrow it down to like 5 or 4 different venues and it just rotated. But that's not how our area does it. We take bids for each quarterly and the assembly once a year. We have 3 quarterlies and 1 assembly. So that's a little different from my understanding, depending on the area. And so we kind of just go in, I mean, not 100% blind, because there's walkthroughs before each of the quarterlies and before the assembly, so we can see what we're getting into. And like Mary was talking about, most of the time we hardwire in. That's always the preferred. But sometimes like our last quarter, we had Wi-Fi, and that was, I don't know, it worked out. It was fine. But we prefer being hardwired in. We also had a bit of a fiasco last quarterly. The laptop that was pushing everything crapped out, like right in the middle of DCM sharing, and we were down for about 20 minutes. until we were able to bring another laptop in, get the software over, get booted back up, get reconnected, get everything dialed back in. But I mean, it was a 20-minute turnaround, which I feel pretty good about. But I don't know. People have asked me if all the tech we have is I guess, a barrier to service. And I don't know that it is, but I don't know that it isn't either. I don't know if your, everyday AA or could do, like, what would happen if, a laptop crashed on you. Now you got to start doing that. Like, that's not necessarily that's definitely a skill set. Not everybody necessarily has, but at the same time, it's also opens up having hybrid for more people to attend. Not everybody can necessarily afford to go to all the different places that we have our assemblies and our assembly and quarterlies at. And so I think it's kind of both. It's kind of it's a win-win, if you will. That's the way I like to look at it. It provides opportunity for people with tech knowledge to have a service position, and it provides also other people, like we have a virtual area, I mean a virtual district 25, and so with that virtual district we can provide them with the technology they need to attend and increase their service work, because now they can participate in area level stuff. And so it's kind of how you look at it. I don't know how. I mean, it is a barrier for some, but for some it's a benefit. And so I guess one of the things that I've learned in my program is to live in that space in between. And so I think it's good for some, bad for some, and just like the program, it works for some and doesn't work for some. Some people got sober on Zoom. Some people couldn't do that. They had to have the rooms. So I mean, it's just kind of like, it's just life. It just changes, and that's where we're at right now. We've made a decision as area to provide a hybrid quarterlies and assembly, and that's what we do. That's, it's given me an opportunity for service. Um, it's given me a huge learning opportunity. It's given me the introduction to area level service. It's given me a whole different view on just service in general at that level for AA and how the whole thing works. Like, I never would have been exposed to it if I would have just stayed as the parking lot attendant. And so I guess that's where I speak from when people ask me if I see technology as a barrier. Um, I guess I'll go with a no. And then again, I am also in the IT industry. So anyway, that's a side note. Yeah, once we figured out that we could use the screen on the right there to be able to view everything the ATEM is viewing, once we were able to really dial in the sound, and get it to the point that we had a lot more control over it and a lot more better quality, both in and out to Zoom. And then once we kind of figured out all of our jobs. Mary's the Zoom lady, I'm the video guy, Conrad's the sound person. And so once we have that team, now we have like a pretty cohesive team. Now that we've figured out what we're doing, now it's our job to pass that on. That's the thing that we're doing now. We're starting to reach out to get more people involved, more tech type people, to give them the opportunity to come up and start to learn what we do. It's taken us a long time, and it's taken a lot of, uh, taking away of the breath times, I guess is a good way of saying it, or a polite way of saying it. But it's been quite the opportunity. It's been quite the experience. It's been quite a fun time to get to know everybody. For me anyway, to be involved in the area level service like this. And so now, let's see here. So we got the A10. What's the next slide there, Jacob? And is there one more? I don't remember if there's one more.
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah. So bringing all of that together was probably one of the biggest challenges. Just because from the beginning, we didn't really know exactly what they wanted from. That's the other part. That's the other aspect, is trying to figure out what the area actually wants from us. Because I think I was the last quarterly or the quarterly before last. All of a sudden the alt delegate comes up and, or no, the chair, it was the chair. She comes up and she's like, "Oh, I want to have music and I want to play music for everybody when we do these walk things." I don't remember what it was about. And it's like, okay, I guess we're doing that. And then we also have the secretary who we need to have him push his shared screen for all the different slides that are going on.
Yeah, but we're
We have
talking
the chair now that's, go ahead.
I was just going to say when you mentioned the secretary, but we're talking about taking that back over to our table and having
Yeah.
us run the slides and push that through the ATM, like ATEM, like to not only to our screens, but also to Zoom. So
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things, the benefits of that ATEM is that we can do more. And that's what we're going to do is we're going to take on that also, that responsibility, so that there's less things that the more, I don't know, I got control is the wrong word. The more that we can pipe in and have, I guess control might be the right word. The more we have control over, then the more that less things can go wrong, I guess is the best way of saying that. The more things we have centralized when it comes to tech things, the better it is for us as a team when we're doing the Zoom and everything like that. Because of all the different requests that we get from the area, from the chair, from the delegate, from all the different uh, things that are going on, it's better that we have more oversight. Maybe that's a good word. um, than having that kind of stuff out in the wild. Because I mean, this last quarterly, we had the secretary. He brought his personal laptop, and we were trying to get his slides going, and it was like right up to the minute. Like I think we had 3 or 4 minutes left until he needed the slides to go live, and his laptop was, acting up, just being techie, just being technology, just doing its thing. And so, if we had that all dialed in before we got even started, then that wouldn't be an issue. That's just one less thing that A, we have to worry about, and B, that the electeds can just sit back and relax. We've also included now, we have a iPad that the chair requested, so that it's actually it's a second screen. It's not an iPad. It's a screen that feeds off of the secretary's laptop so that she can see when hands get raised on Zoom. And then we also have 2 projectors up at, well, depending on the venue. This last time we had 2 projectors. The time before, I think we had 3. But where we have the Zoom room up, like the gallery view, and also a benefit of that. So that's actually, this is kind of a cool part. We have a person that is deaf that's in our that's part of the service. I think she's an alt DCM right now. But
yes,
I just talked to her last week, and she literally said it changed her world. It was a game changer. That once we were able to put up closed captions on the projectors, because we're piping all the sound in from the room and out to Zoom, and from the Zoom into the room. But because of how having that wonderful little closed caption option on Zoom, it translates all that and just puts it up there. It's one thing we don't have to even kind of really even touch. We just activate it. And she said that now that she has that, she's able to like follow along with everyone going on at the mic. She said she was afraid to share because she didn't know if she was going to say the same thing as somebody else said. And then I, casually mentioned to her, I was like, that's okay. Everybody says the same thing. You wouldn't be the only one. And she kind of giggled. But so accessibility, that's another thing that's also I kind of forgot about that. But yeah, so being able to have closed captions up on the screen for the whole room to read, even for people that can hear, it helps them to kind of follow along if there's like side noise going on or a side conversation, which happens. And so that's another benefit of having all that sound going through that ATEM and having it be crystal clear so that the Zoom translator can actually put that up there nicely. So yeah, we have that screen that the chair can use to call on people. We have those closed captions going on. We have those projectors going up so that everyone in the room can see everyone on Zoom. Plus, that's also part of Mary's job, is to spotlight those people and bring them up so that we
yeah.
have, when they start sharing, everyone in the room can see them. And so, you know, we're constantly doing stuff. And so like another one of my jobs is to be switching the cameras between the mics, between the podium and the mic and the wide shot. So I've kind of gotten it down to one of the things that I like to do is we have a front wide shot and a back wide shot. And so when someone from Zoom is sharing, I switch to the super source. That's what it's called, because it has a background and then two boxes that I can control what's in the boxes. And I put the front wide shot and the back wide shot in that so that the person on Zoom kind of feels like they're talking to the room. I don't know if they actually get that feeling, but that's what I'm going for. And then we also have, so that's another thing, that ATEM, that I don't know, that ATEM is pretty magical. It's very, very, very capable. And we're still, like I said, we're probably using 10-15% of its capabilities just because it's able to be used for like live streaming and just all kinds of crazy stuff that you can pipe through it. But it works really well for what we use it for. It's pretty amazing. And so you combine all the different pieces that we have, that ATEM, the PTZ control board, the sound, our laptops and our screen setup, and the people behind it. And then we're able to put all of that together, give a clear presentation to Zoom, give people in the room a clear understanding what's going on from people in Zoom, give the chair the ability that while she's running the meeting, give her the ability to include Zoom and give the ability to kind of see what's going on there, and also give the people on Zoom the ability to see her when she's talking, or I guess, you know, and see the chair, see them presenting, and see everything going on in the room. So I don't know. It's pretty cool with everything that we have and the setup that we've learned to use over the years. And I really feel like over the past 2 or 3 quarterlies, we've really brought it together. And now we're in the place that we're going to hand that on to somebody else and teach them how to do it, and, you know, and do stuff like this, help you guys. I mean, ask, you know, bring it to you and show you guys what's going on. I mean, I was looking at all the different people in here. It looks like we got people from all over. So yeah, I think that's kind of everything I've got. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Mary.
A couple of things that I saw in chat. So they were talking about closed captioning. So there's some options in the back of Zoom where you can set it up so that you like the host chooses the spoken language, and then people who are on Zoom can choose the language that they have the closed captioning translated into, interpreted, you know. So we also have our interpreters, wherever we set our table up, our interpreters are generally just down the same side from us, because they have a their setup plugs directly into our soundboard. So they get directly from our soundboard in their headset, so that they're translating in so that they can interpret in real time, right? So they are also on Zoom. Here's the other great thing is they're also, you know, logged into Zoom as our interpreters on Zoom. So there's sometimes when we have Spanish being spoken on Zoom, we have Spanish participants on Zoom as well as in the room. So we have just the greatest little group of language that you could ask for. We also have it set up so if we need ASL, we have it set up in Zoom so that that will show up for our for ASL participants. Like we have that set up as well. So we have had to not this year because she rotated out, but we had a past def DCM. And so a lot of that accessibility and conversation took place as we were really figuring out how to do it correctly, right? because you got to learn to crawl before you walk. And so we did a whole lot of crawling before we walked. I think that, you know, for us, like what we can tell you are a lot of the pitfalls, things not to do. But I'll tell you right now that ATEM was one of the best investments that we got to make, right? And I say that not to push the device itself, but they have different sizes. You don't have to go with you don't have to go with the um, the choice that we made, but in some of the
We have the
smaller
extreme.
devices, but in some of the smaller devices, you don't have super source. And we really wanted the super source, which is where you can put picture in picture and you can do some really cool stuff. And we wanted that polished kind of ability um, to be able to present um, for our assemblies and the quarterly.
Well, thank you so much. I'm a member of Area 72 and I've learned so much. Thank you, Anthony and Mary. And I have a feeling we're gonna have a lot of questions, so we'll probably be going right up to the hour and a half mark. We are gonna move into our questions and also sharing. So like if you have something you want to share on this topic, not a question, this is a good time to do it. I do ask that you keep your share to 3 minutes or less. And if you are approaching the 3-minute mark, I'll just give you a gentle reminder to wrap up. So yeah, and I see Michael has raised his hand. I'm gonna actually share first, but that's exactly what to do, is raise your virtual hand under reactions. Something I should have said in the introduction is that Area 72, I think there's only one other area like us that we have a single assembly where all of our GSRs get together, and that's in October. And so that's the one Mary mentioned. We have about 600 people in person and then about 300 people on Zoom. And then in January, April, and July, we have a quarterly, which is where all the DCMs and appointed and elected area officers and anyone else that wants to comes, but it's much smaller because not all the GSRs are expected to be there. And that's about, Mary put it in the chat, but I think it was like 200 people in person and around 80 on Zoom, I think is what she said. So that's our 4 big events, 3 smaller quarterlies, and then 1 really big assembly. And I speak we because I'm co-chair of the tech steering committee, but we don't allow any other meetings to use the hybrid equipment. It's just too much to loan out to others that, you know, it's a lot of invested. And so if our smaller, like say the corrections committee wants to have hybrid for their quarterly, we don't allow them to use the area equipment because it's just too much. And we're lucky that a lot of our intergroup and central offices have smaller hybrid setups that they can then use for those smaller meetings. But yeah, it's just four meetings a year we do with this setup. And yeah, so I'm gonna stop talking because you guys have lots of questions. The last thing I'll say is I'm gonna capture all the details of the Area 72 equipment and put it in that Google Doc. It might not be available in in full completeness tomorrow when I send out the link to the recording. So if I have to take more time to get that thoroughly put together, then I'll send out an extra email and an extra post on the TIA forum with that. Yeah, Michael, go ahead.
Thank you, Jacob. I'm Michael. I'm an alcoholic. And I'm on the Area 7 Technology Committee. Just wanted to thank Area 72 for fantastic presentation. And Jacob, thank you for your service for hosting this every month. I think you might answer my question already, Jacob, with your closing statements there. An equipment list with maybe an itemized pricing schedule would be great. Something that's approximate, I know would be really useful for the area because we're talking about doing this right now. And we all know that it's usually, the dollar amounts that usually come up at the area assemblies when we need to approve expenditures and something like this. But I also want to know if you have documentation on how all this equipment goes together. And I think that's all I got. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks, Michael.
As far as documentation goes, we've kind of built that as we've gone along. At this point, we just have everything kind of labeled where things plug in. We haven't built a single documentation on how it all works because it's kind of been as a growing as it goes kind of thing. And we've kind of just got to the point where the setup is the same. We've had the same setup the last 2 times. And so now we could actually probably make that documentation. And I guess along with the item list of what we have, that would probably be a good combination. So that would help, I bet.
Actually, we do have some documentation because it was built during the Passover from when I left as sound and the new sound person took over. So before that happened, but it was based on not the current, like, how we've removed the scarlet. It still has the scarlet in there. So it needs to be updated to what we are currently doing, but I would be more than happy to share that out once we get it updated.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely add that to our tech sharing sessions, documentation, and get that posted. And yeah, the first part of Michael's request about just a list of all the equipment, I'll work with Mary and Anthony to get that together. And again, I can't promise a 24-hour turnaround. I'll get the recording out tomorrow, but we will get a good inventory and some links to the actual equipment. David, go ahead.
Thank you. That wonderful presentation. Thank you. And you guys have some pretty amazing equipment there too. This may seem a little peripheral, but I'm involved in the interpretation and translation committee for Area 6. And the way we handle interpretation typically is that the interpreters either get a feed directly from Zoom, which is the Zoom gets it from the soundboard, or sometimes they get a direct feed from the board. But the way we send it out is they have to send it out on Zoom as an interpreter, but we also have low power FM transmitters and use FM radios for people when they're listening in the room, right? And I'm wondering how you guys handle, we've had a problem with how do you have somebody speaking into a microphone and send that signal to 2 places, one to Zoom and one to an FM transmitter? If anybody's got a solution to that, or if you have a different way of doing it that avoids that problem, let me know, please. Thank you.
So I can briefly answer that.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, because so we go out to the board, they have headsets. So ours have headsets that they wear if they're on premise. And then if they are on Zoom, we have a channel set up so that they select Spanish. And we have a couple of different interpreters that are working at the same time, but generally what she does is she has her one headset down around with the microphone, like she's translating in real time in both headsets at the same time, and she has absolutely no problem. And what happens is we give her own microphone, so when she's doing translation for someone who is Spanish speaking at a microphone, we're doing it one-to-one. So she's coming in after they've spoken and interpreting for them. And they get like twice. So normally we have 2 minutes at the mic. If you're a Spanish speaking member, you have 4 minutes at the mic to kind of make up for the time difference between waiting for the interpreter.
You answered my question by telling me that they wear 2 headsets. So you basically have 2 microphones right near their mouth. One goes into one piece of equipment and one goes into the other. Thank you.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, and it's great to see you again, David. I met you in person at PRASA. Dan, go ahead.
First, Dan Alcoholic. Quick answer to how we do it with interpretation is we have an FM broadcaster. You just put the laptop in between the broadcaster and the mic, and then you start a Zoom session. So we got basically the output from the laptop that goes to a headset, right? Feeds the FM broadcaster, and then they can Bluetooth a mic and a headset or whatever you got, so they can they can be on Zoom. So then on the Zoom, we set them up as translation or as an interpreter. But I got a couple questions and I was tech chair when we went to hybrid. We had passed a motion to do hybrid, and I just want to throw out there, if I did some quick figuring on your equipment, you got over $25,000 worth of equipment. We spent $3,500, and we're doing about the same functionality. But some of our mission when we were looking at this too was, well, first of all, we knew if it was going to cost that much, it wasn't going to fly. And we got a guy that was a sound guy, had a business of that, picked up a lot of used equipment, was a big part of that. And intentionally try to not get too fancy. So one of the questions I have is, how many people are involved when it's live? How many people do you got working?
3.
Okay, the 3 you're talking about. You don't have any other Zoom hosts going, or?
Sometimes we have people on, like for the assembly the assembly, we have people online who help to spotlight and do all that kind of stuff, but they're not in person.
I mean, everybody, yeah. So you got 2 people Zoom hosting.
So usually
that'd be
for the
Mary,
assembly, when we've got 200 and 300 people online, for the assembly, it's generally I have, and it also depends. Are we doing breakout rooms? Because we have a whole setup the day before our assembly that is nothing but panels. And so we're running, we have 2 hybrid rooms. One will be the main room. And then we have another room set up to run a hybrid meeting. And then the rest of the rooms are, they're copied. So we have an on-premise version and an online version, so that we have everybody feels like they're at the assembly, regardless of if you're on Zoom or in the room. And so we've a question has been about the sound equipment also, that we have had our sound equipment for over 20 years. Like some of the sound equipment that we have in the setup that we've had has been around as long as I've been sober. So it's just been added to and replaced and all of that. But that $16,000 worth of sound equipment has been bought over long periods of time. This has been an investment that the area has made over many years. So for us, it wasn't like we just dropped we just made a decision and dropped that money on it. I just really want to make sure that people understand that, if you have $5,000 or you have a $10,000 budget, you can do so much with that. Like there's so many different ways to skin the cat. Like you can you can do some amazing things with just a few $100s. So don't let the amount of money that we're talking about that we've invested scare you from doing anything in your area. Like there are down and dirty cheap ways of doing things, and they get the job done.
Yeah. And that, we went from not providing any sound or anything when we started this. We used to rely on the facilities stuff. And the timing was right too, because what big change happened is our facility started charging us for everything, right? If you wanted a mic, that was, 25 to 50 bucks a day, those kinds of things. So kind of what sold it for our area was the fact that, and we stayed pretty skimpy on what we did. Would, renting this equipment would have cost more than what we paid for a year. But I am curious about the how many people we on. That was the other mission that we tried to keep in mind, was that we don't want to build a rocket here, because our real issue is big issue is how do we keep the technical skills involved to be able to run this stuff, right? And that's always an ongoing thing with our tech committee, is keeping the right skill sets in there. And I was a computer guy, and another guy had a sound deal, and we just figured out how to get. My original solution was we were going to have computers all over the place, and he told me about boards and things like that I didn't even know existed. So it's been an interesting design, and it's still going, but that's a big deal for us as our tech committee, and is to always have an ear out for somebody that's got some skills that could be applied. So anyhow, really great. What you guys do is amazing, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Dan. Shannon, go ahead.
Hey guys, Shannon, alcoholic, and I'm coming to you from Southeast Michigan, Area 33. Sorry, I was late at my district meeting is right before and while this was starting. So I look forward to the recording of the beginning of your presentation. I've recently helped to put on a statewide event, a hybrid event. I got a PTZ camera off eBay for $75. And I got 2 laptops and a webcam, and I just did my best to like make it work. And so I'm excited to see what, as our area, it was kind of like a test case. We're moving into doing hybrid assemblies. Our assemblies are every month, and they're much smaller. And the issue that I had mostly with my hybrid event was lag, and I'm guessing, and some bandwidth issues. And I don't know if you already addressed this in your presentation, but do you do anything signal wise, or maybe you're meeting somewhere with very robust internet, but we're meeting in a high school cafeteria, is where our assembly takes place, and we don't have a lot of control over the internet. And there was just some lag. And when you have hand raising, and people are trying to raise hands at the right time or vote, that caused a little bit of an issue at times for us. So I'm just curious if you had any solutions or thoughts about that. Thanks.
Yeah, Anthony, alcoholic. So one of our major things is we like to be wired in. But if we do have to go on Wi-Fi, we just make sure that we're the only ones with the password. We're the only ones hooking up to Wi-Fi. If you hand that out, then you're gonna have those issues. And so I don't know if you did that, or if that made go ahead.
Yeah, that was totally what happened. I found out that the registration table had the Wi-Fi password like on an easel, and I was like, "Can you please take that down?" And so if we have that event there next time, we're gonna ask for their private network, or we'll keep it hidden. But at the high school, it's like a very different scenario for them, because they're not gonna let us on their private and they have, you know, like their guest network, it doesn't require a password. So we can't, I mean, and maybe it's going to be great. We haven't really done it there yet, but I just want to think about, and I did see some nods in this room too. I just want to think about, like, are we, is anybody using like a hotspot from their
Yeah.
phone? You know, I've got unlimited data. I guess I could throw it under the bus for area. At least it's at the end of the month. So thanks. Yeah. So yeah, the Ethernet hardwire, right? That's probably the first solution.
Yes.
Yeah, that's your
It
best
is.
solution. But then, yeah, hotspot, that would also work, because then that would eliminate the random people logging on. You'd have control over that. But yeah, if you do have to use the Wi-Fi in the facility, I would do your best to not hand it out to the room, because you're gonna have lag issues. So
We strive, especially for assemblies, to make sure that it's a wired connection. We have had it where we've been at a facility and they've lost their connection, and we've pulled out hotspots, reconnected, and had everything back up and running off of 3 of my hotspots. Thank God I had them in my work bag. So I was like, they came in super handy. And phones, like there's just, everybody turns on their mobile sharing, and we do what we have to do. But those are usually the exceptions, not the rule, right? But we have also had the same experience where the Wi-Fi was being handed out to anybody who wanted it, until Mary went and had a conversation with the registration table. And then that changed really quickly. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Shannon and Anthony and Mary, for your answers. Lou G, go ahead.
Thanks, Jacob, and thanks for your service. And thanks to the team for a great presentation. I'm sitting here with a lot of area envy. I think rather than answering my questions, it'd be simpler for me to just move to Washington and be amongst what I would consider my people. But I guess one of the things I didn't hear addressed directly was how do you manage this? In a professional setting like you're talking about, we use words that don't fit in well with an AA culture, like producer, director, and that kind of thing. And however you've structured that within your team, how do you plan to do rotation around that and observe our principle of rotation? Obviously, this can't be handed off to just any Joe just drying out after a detox. But what do you do for managing that? And do you have amongst your inventory or your documentation a list of specific roles and responsibilities for the kind of thing that happens at the soundboard or the video switching or those kinds of things?
Or Mary, you're muted.
I was sorry, I was going to let you go for it because, okay, so this has been a combination of things. And I started off with the documentation, and Jacob has just kind of taken it to a whole new level. So I'm going to let him talk about what we've done, or what he has spearheaded.
Okay, well, I will say I have tried as Area 72 web servant to not be involved in the sound and Zoom team, but I am co-chair of our tech steering committee, which is new. We've only had this for over just a year ago or so. It was created, and the goal is to make sure the tech needs of our area are met and one of our first big things is we realize we have this great setup and we don't know, but it relies on 3 people not getting sick or having an emergency. Like, we don't know what would happen if Mary, Anthony, and Conrad couldn't show up. We don't have backups for the humans. And we don't know what our rotation is like. We've discussed some models, but we know our first step was we need to find 3 people to shadow Anthony, Mary, and Conrad. And as you heard them discuss, the roles kind of naturally aligned. You got one person focusing on the sound and the mics and all that. And again, I'm not an expert on this. And then one person focusing on the cameras and the video, and then one person focusing on the Zoom. And they're all sitting together and working together. So there's kind of those 3 roles, and we want to find 3 people to start shadowing them, and thered be some kind of rotation. And we like the idea of like always keeping these people though like available. So eventually we'd maybe have like lots of backups. We'd have 12 people that have been trained. But we're still figuring that out. We don't, and Anthony or Mary can add to that, but we don't know more than that. I don't yet.
So
And
Anthony
how do
had
you
a,
take,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, how do you take that and expand it to when you have breakout rooms or multiple places to deal with? Do you have people that are responsible for the tech in those rooms then? And how does that all get fed back into when you come back together? Again, in a professional setting, or if you're dealing like with Tech 12, they have somebody who has the overall coordination responsibility of the production of the meeting, as opposed to the more fine watching the boards and dealing with the kinds of things that you all do.
So when it comes to that, what we call run a show, so we get to run a show, we have a script, we follow, we like that script, our sound person who oversees the three of us, that sound position, who is our voting, it's like our voting chair for the body of the tech team. He sits down with our our delegate and the chair, like prior to the meeting, goes through all that stuff for us, right? Then gives us a copy of the script. So we have a timing sheet, we have a script. We have, like, for the assembly, when you were talking about breakout rooms, like I'm the one that builds that because I'm the one that has to build each one of the rooms individually. And I usually build a user, and I build that room with that user, or those 2 rooms with that user. Like, there's always something that that you got to manage, and then it's sharing that with the rest of the tech team, and also having those roles. So all the roles of what people are going to do during an assembly are in there. So make sure that people understand. And then every document they could possibly need is in what we call, it's like a virtual table. So we put every document that everybody's getting in the room in a Google Drive folder, and we share that throughout the entire assembly through a link in chat. Like, people are constantly able to get what they need. But for us, we know what's coming up based on the script that's shared, and we follow along in our online script so that we're making sure we're dropping things when we're supposed to. We're making sure that we're switching to different rooms. So with the hybrid room, we usually have 2 hybrid rooms. We have our main room, and then the room next door is set up so that we can do GSR sharing and DCM sharing. And those are usually large rooms. And then the rest of the breakout rooms, and these all happen on Friday for us. So they could be there all day, and they're usually done in 1 hour increments or 45-minute increments with a 15-minute gap. And so we do those same rooms online. So you have to make sure you have a host. Like, that's really where it comes in, is having people on Zoom who sign up to help you for the assembly. It's just like having somebody come and shake hands or do any of those things for a normal assembly. They're just doing it on Zoom. So I hope that kind of answered that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I was looking for that kind of backup. I guess one last comment about this and you know, perspective we've had or sort of stumbled into. Area 10, I think, has had kind of a PTSD sort of response from our year that we did online meetings. We had a staff of nearly 50 people to be able to do assemblies and voting and all of those kinds of things. And it was so unwieldy that to think that we would do that for every assembly, that we've had a resistance or a reluctance. I think you all are aware that a lot of areas that, rather than go through the discipline and the risk of doing what it is that you've done in Area 72, what they've done is just throw money at it. And I think as we evolve, we're probably going to need to have something like I don't know, maybe a paid special worker for the or somebody that would do this, because it seems like we're asking a lot of Joe or Jane, AA member, to step into any of these roles and follow a script and develop the cohesiveness that you need for this kind of a team. Whereas, if you have someone like Tech 10 or one of the other Tech 12 or one of the other organizations that do this, you can just tell them what you want, and they know. They don't blanch at the word of a director or producer or those kinds of words. So have you given consideration to maybe this is something that will grow beyond a typical AA rotational role to manage your hybrid setup?
Well, I'll try to answer that, and then we'll take one more question before we close. But we do have we have 6 elected officers and then 16 appointed. So I'm the appointed web servant. We have a sound and Zoom chair. Currently his name's Mike, and so he would be that manager, or and he has to go to the appointed and elected check-ins, and Mary, Conrad, Anthony don't have to do that. And but I'll say they're very much a team. Like, he's not necessarily directing them. None of them are. They're working well together. And finding people to help with the Zoom hosting is probably the easiest, because all of our districts are, not all, but most are doing hybrid. So the people have experience with the Zoom hosting, but it is that hands-on experience with the Area 72 setup that is completely unique. Like, none of us are using that at our district. So that's the challenge. And we certainly are hopeful, and we do live in Western Washington. There's a big tech scene in Seattle. So although it doesn't seem like our tech people necessarily come from Seattle ever, but we're hopeful we can find 3 people out of thousands of alcoholics and not go the professional route. And I don't know if Lois put her hand down because she's
Well,
conceding.
I did. I mean, I thought maybe people had real questions, and Lou said a lot of what I thought, actually, Jacob. Like, basically, this work takes resources, both human and financial. and in my area, we were really burning out the human resources, and we made a decision to pay for it, but it's contentious all the time. And I'm not sure it should be. I mean, I think if it's a necessary service, we should pay for it. And if we don't have the money to pay for it, we should reach out to the fellowship and see, right? Do we want this or not? And if we do, then we should pay for it. Anyway, that's my thought.
Yeah, and Area 72, because we have a virtual district, I mean, we have GSRs who are all over the country. So if we don't do hybrid for our assembly, they can't necessarily participate. It's not just like accessibility. I mean, it's literally like there's no, I mean, it's unrealistic to fly to Washington. And so that's our pitch, is like, if this is really important, then we have to make this a priority to find good people because yeah, we can't expect Anthony, Mary, and Conrad to do this forever.
I mean, we love it, and we are more than happy to teach as many people as possible, how to. And that's just it, is like, yes, it helps to have some technology background, especially when you have a main computer crash right in the middle of the big event, which we've had happen, which is why we have spares. So, but yeah, it's very true. Like, that's our biggest hurdle for us, is getting the people.
Well, and Pam and everyone else that had your hand raised, we won't get to that, but if you stay after, I know Anthony, I think, has already left. He had some personal stuff to take care of, but Mary may be able to hang out and answer more questions. And so I want to just again thank Anthony and Mary for making themselves available for this. This was a really great sharing session, and let me get back to my script before I forget everything. So if you have further questions about this, it's been suggested that we bring those to the Technology and AA Forum. Most of you are probably familiar with that already, but if you're not, it's just an amazing resource. We're a learning group, as I mentioned, so all of you guys are eligible to be a presenter someday. If you haven't already filled this out, this is a topic survey. You can let the steering committee know what topics you'd like to hear about at future tech sharing sessions, and also put down what things you have experience with that maybe you could present on. Here is a link to a survey just for today's session. So this was our first session where we had just one presenter to let them do a deep dive, and I think it went really well. But please, if you have time, fill that out so we can get feedback on today's session. And the recording will be on our Google Drive within 24 hours. I'll have that up. And as I said, I'll work with Mary and Anthony to get some details about the setup to also add. Here's a link to the archives where all the different documents and recordings for these first 4 sharing sessions and into the future are. And if you want to get an email with the link to the recording and a reminder a week before each session, just send an email to techsharingsessions@gmail.com, and I'll add you to our email list. And if you just want to connect or have questions about anything tech sharing sessions, just reach out at that email. Lastly, 2 little tech world AA Tech World announcements is the National AA Technology Workshop. The registration is now open, so check that out. If someone can put the link in the chat for me, I don't have that ready. And the TIA Forum is looking for people that might want to be of service with their, man, I forget the name, but they need the team that does like the behind the scenes work with their platform. If anyone is looking for technology service, go on the TIA forum and reach out to their team, and they're looking for help. And next month I'll have a better blurb about that for you. So with that, I am going to stop recording.